Hi there, welcome to data log number 4. I might need to get up at some point and close that window because the lighting is very bad, and that dog out there is gonna cry a bit. Let me adjust this camera slightly. I'm using the internal microphone on my computer because something is wrong with the microphone on my headphones. It works fine, I'm pretty certain, for my phone. I don't know, I haven't tested that. But I recorded an entire 30-minute recording, and it unfortunately was made worthless by the fact that the audio was not working, which sucks. But it's also a good thing, because I accidentally dropped the F-bomb in there, and not fuck. I can say fuck. The slur used against homosexual people. I dropped it in there without thinking. And, I mean, I'm pretty certain no one gives a shit if I use it. Look at me. I have a dress in my closet. I'm pretty up there in that category of cigarette quality. Oh my god, there's a shirt on the floor. Alright, so I believe the things I was talking about last time that I was here was over the Asexual Project, which is turning out to be a lot more true and real than I anticipated. One moment. Boop. Okay, so it's a lot more real than I thought it would be, because I don't know if I've mentioned this in any other video, but I'm being tested for BPD. I missed my opportunity for a psych eval accidentally because I thought I had an exam that day. I did. And the day after that, and the day after that, it was an online exam, and I didn't realize that. So I missed a perfectly good psych eval, and I missed a meeting with my therapist, which sucks. That really sucks. But they're psych evaluating me for borderline personality disorder. I've seen the DSM. I've done as good as a diagnostic evaluation as I can on myself. I check out for the criteria required, which is, I believe, four of the category, four of the symptoms present, and it's very roughly defined. But if I do, I think I've said this already, sorry if I'm recounting the same data, I would have a very baby version of BPD. It's more of a mixture of social chameleonism and a lack of, personal identity. I come from, the section of the... I don't know if that was... I come from, the section of psychology and New Ageism where I'm a psychonaut. As in, I experiment on my psyche, which is exactly what this is. This recording, all these data logs. Well, other than being a great way for me to record data of my own life that is presentable to other people, or even family, which I hope not, the point is to experiment with my psyche. I mean, I'm great at that. I can do that all day, every day. I'm really good at experimenting and damaging my psyche. But, what was my point? My point was that my personality, or my system that would be identified as personality, is extremely social chameleon-like. I've realized that the Asexual Project I've been doing, one, I've realized that due to the lack of a personality... Excuse me, I'm sorry. Due to the lack... God, please! Due to the lack of a real personality, I can pretty much be anything. I can find roots in almost anything. And with time and isolation, the boundaries of my personality become less and less defined and more malleable. It's whenever I encounter social interactions that old learned neurons and pathways engage, and I engage in behavior which is self-destructive. I'll give an example in a bit, but let's see here, how do we put this? Imagine if you could be anyone. Who the hell would you be? You would be what your brain has learned. You would be the patterns that you have learned. And a lot of people argue that sexuality is genetic determinism, or determined by genetics. Genetic determinism may be the wrong term to use there, because that has to do more with fate and philosophy. But a lot of people think that things like gender and sex are determined by genetics. I disagree, especially because evidence shows it can only make up for 50% of the variancy. Even in twin studies, it only makes up for 50%. And that's ignoring the fact that most of those people were more like 30%. Hang on, that's not quite right. There's a 33%, I think, around there for not identical twins, as in they are the same person genetic-wise, but the other one, where they are born at the same time, I think. I might be getting that wrong. Where they are twins, but not in the same way that we would consider, like, identical. Those people have around a 30% identical gene relation in sexuality, but the only, like, highest degree is 50%. I need to be very careful with what I'm saying here, not because of anyone else, but because I can very easily get agitated by this. A lot of trauma. You fall in love with a lesbian and it kind of drives you to near suicide multiple times, and that's why my brain has a protocol in it that doesn't let me commit suicide. I am jealous of other people because you have the power to kill yourself and I don't. I'm trapped in hell. The good part is you can't tell if that's a joke or not. You should assume it's not, but it's also okay because the less I think about it, the better off I am. Anyways, that was me just explaining genetic determinism. A lot of people believe that sexuality is determined by genetics. It's partially influenced by genetics, but imagine if your sexuality was fluid and it depends entirely upon your actions and thoughts. Which, yes, that's how that works. But imagine also that it's programmed. I mean, you can imagine that. That's how it works. If you get off to something... Oh, Lord. And you keep getting off to that thing, you are percentage-wise each time increasing the chance that you're going to get off to that thing next time. It's just how neurons work. If you reinforce something as positive with enough correlations, eventually it becomes positive. And asexuality is one of those weird things where it's a spectrum now. It used to be more elitist for some reason, where it was only people who don't experience sexual attraction. Which one is fascinating because fuck Freud. Fuck Freud. No one likes Freud. Fuck that guy. Fuck you, Freud. And your bullshit drives, and fuck you, behavioralists. No. It's very likely that it could be a genetic vulnerability mixed with experiences, and usually genetic vulnerabilities lead to experiences that enforce the genetic vulnerability. That's right, you're a slave to your genetics, and your experiences are not a thing of free will. I'm just rambling. But asexuality is considered one of those abnormals. It's a lack of sexual attraction. And then it grew in definition to either sexual repulsion or sexual indifference. There's also... It's just anything that isn't sexual attraction. And as I've spent time alone, more and more by myself, I still communicate with people, I still interact with them, but I spend more time by myself doing this. Look at this. Look how much writing there is. This is a lot. Fun fact about me, I have the left-hand curse. So I write with my left hand, which means my hands cramp a lot. Like, a lot. Which is why I like doing these data logs more. Also, my grandparent had arthritis, so I'm kind of fucked. Regardless, I've spent more and more time by myself. So I've had more time to probe myself. It sounds so weird and homoerotic as shit, but I swear it's not. Probing is like, if we can get an example here. Hang on, let me grab an example. Okay, so using the IFS system, which, if you don't know what that is, it's an internal family system. It's a system in which psychotherapy approaches human consciousness as a collection of states. Self-states, I believe is the term. And these self-states are protocols in the brain. A normal human should not be able to tell the difference between these protocols, but the protocols exist anyways. And in people with, like, CPTSD or borderline or especially DID, we learned it, particularly from DID. These people engage in these states as an almost altered state of consciousness. I'll give an example in a bit, but stick with me on this. So there is one system known as the critic in my brain. And this system, whenever I was talking about asexuality, would question it. I mean, it questions all the time. I question everything all the time. Not because I'm smart or anything, but because I'm a skeptic. And this system goes on to make comparisons about how I'm just trying to mimic my ex, who was asexual. And yes, that's a very good point. It's very possible that I am mimicking it. But the break between the questioning and actual logical argument is that it doesn't matter to me whether or not I'm mimicking them. I'm choosing an identity. Because I am fluid and I lack a state of true identity, I have to choose my identity over doubt. Because if I doubt everything, I still won't formulate an identity, and I'll just be lost or wandering. I wanted to go back to the IFS thing, because it really does matter in my regards to my own life. I've had more and more dissociative issues. Actually, I'm going to go grab a drink real quick here. Alright, I'm back. Oh, I fucking love microplastics. And calcium. So, I've had more and more dissociative issues. I've had somewhat lapses in memory and functioning, cognitive functioning, which is noticeable, or notable. And one of the unique interactions of, like, DID, and how I'm going to tie this into IFS, is a tendency in people with DID is to formulate alters, which are the altered states of consciousness, who fill out the roles of a protector, an exile, management. There's just... You can look up IFS on your own. I've never professionally studied it. I can only remember there's firefighters, there's exiles, there's managers, there's a fourth one that I can't remember. There might be a fifth. But these systems, they operate somewhat independently of consciousness, because they are our learned safety states. Now, someone with extreme trauma will usually unwittingly, or unknowingly switch into these altered states of consciousness. Whenever I get in an argument with my parent, I got a conversation with them because I want to start HRT, and they very much do not approve, but they are aware that I am like their only child who loves them unconditionally. It's a fucked up thing. I have a comment somewhere in there about it, not getting into that. Not the place for that. But whenever I enter into these arguments, my vision gets weird. It's like a filament is over my vision. And I'm aggressive. Not aggressive as in defensive, I'm aggressive as in assertive. I'm not willing to be told you cannot do this because, one, we know, as in me, the multiplicity of I, we know that we've done well enough and we deserve to be happy. And two, because we, that state, are not going to fucking take being oppressed. We're not doing it. We're tired of that shit. And then there's this weird switch into normal mode again, which a part of consciousness therein is diffusive. There's a firefighter somewhere in there who works alongside the first one, who diffuses by using humor as a coping mechanism or to push people away from serious topics. And then whenever I, the primary consciousness, return to fluidity or liveliness, lividity? These lividities! Whenever I return, there's a weird color distortion because the brain has stressed itself. In the normal human brain, these programs exist, but they are not differentiated between them and the primary consciousness, the ego or I. That's how id. I do not have this. Because I pay attention too much to the functions behind my consciousness, I'm very, very obsessive with it. I'm able to sense when these states change, which you think would be awesome, but it's kind of, well, it's not awesome, but it's useful. It's useful knowing what defense tool I am using in the moment. And I'm not certain how we got into this IFS thing. I was trying to explain essentially what IFS is and what it's like. And most people with the disorders that are associated more keenly with structural dissociation, look that up, it's a pretty cool theory, and IFS don't recognize when they switch states. DBT, which is a therapeutic field or therapeutic strategy for borderline personality disorder, really any person with emotional intensity. DBT helps intensify or strengthen one's ability to feel and understand what they're feeling, because I have alexithymia. I can't feel 90% of the things going on inside my brain. It took a lot of observation. Even I'm autistic, somewhere on that spectrum. I was trained at a young age. I got therapy intervention to help lower the intensity of it. I don't experience a lot of things that people with autism do. But it took a shit ton of introspection to realize that whenever I watch a comfort show, I have a comfort show. That's shocking to me. But when I watch it, whenever I'm happy, my arms will go up to my chest, which is a repetitive motion. Or it took a lot for me to realize, especially with the use of these headphones, because they have sound canceling, that my brain has essentially minorly forgotten how to filter out sound again, which is annoying and painful, because now I get my autistic meltdowns again. I just have to relearn it. It's not hard. It's just reinforcing a pattern. But my point is that there are systems in the brain, in my brain, which operate non-standardly. I have one which, it's social chameleonism. And with time, isolation, I believe was my original point. With isolation and time, I've come to realize that these subsystems that mimic people, managers, I think would be their class, they mimic everything. I'm highly empathetic, only in the regards that my mirror neurons have a low activation point and they have high sensitivity. It's hard for me to experience those emotions, but the mirroring is there. I can tell almost immediately when someone is distressed or sad. That or I'm suspicious as fuck and I'm constantly asking. But part of that is I mimic people's sexual behavior. It's a very long conversation topic, and it can't be fit within 20 minutes, which is what I want to aim for. But I think it is healthy for an individual to take time to be entirely by themselves. I've spent, 2 months now, emotionally by myself. I only put up the bare image of a person, and I am trying more regularly to tell people that what they are talking to is not the real me. You're talking to a facade, because I cannot be myself with other people around me. It's not how my brain works. When other people are around me, a trigger or a trauma response engages, and the fear of people, it just engages the mirror system, because honestly, humans are cunts, and it's really hard to get them to be good in any way unless you give them what they want. And I'm tired of doing that. I don't want to be that person. I'm not a yes man, and I yes manned my way into a relationship with a lesbian who, to put it lightly, my very bedroom that I sleep in is a trigger, because again and again I relive one night where we watched a movie about a circus, and it's painful. There's this memory, just a second long, where they leave the room to go use the restroom, and I breathe out because I'm anxious. And at the time, I didn't make the correlation that, hey, this anxiety is being caused because, holy fuck, you have been hurt by this person a lot. If I could commit suicide, I probably would have at least twice because of them. Not their fault. I choose to believe it's not their fault. A lot of other people would not choose to believe that. They never directly intended to harm me, but they hurt the fuck out of me. And I mirrored them, and I let them, because, one, trauma response. It's very Freudian or Jungian, but there's this unconscious idea that I deserve to suffer. And perhaps I stayed with them because I wanted to justify that I was worthless to them, which is a terrible way to feel. And obviously you would, I think the term is crash out. Obviously you would crash out from that. But in isolation, I believe that this mirror function shuts off. There's time to introspect and realize how little of me is inside. And that things like this book is Loveless. It's pretty good. Some of the reactions do immediately pose me to think, hey, that's a trauma response. I read that less than 5 days ago in a book about sexual healing. That's directly the words that some people have used. And then other parts, I'm like, wow, holy shit, yeah, no, I relate to that a lot. And other parts, I'm like, God, do you really think you need to be loved that fucking badly? Gross. Stop. Anyways, I have to close this. There are 8 seconds left. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day. Please take care of yourself. And don't be like me.